Tuesday, May 8th, 2018, and we're at the Village Depot offices, and this is the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of North Bennington. It is 7 o'clock, and we'll start the meeting with a review of the minutes from April 10th meeting, and approval of those minutes. Does everybody have the minutes in mind? We had an opportunity to review them. I have a copy of them. So, we were all five trustees were present at the meeting, so.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
And any discussion? Hearing none, we would, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there will be none opposed, and the clerk will record unanimous approval of those minutes. Next is to review the monthly warrants and the payment of the bills, so let's take the warrant first, let's actually do the payroll warrant first. There's nothing unusual about the payroll warrant. There's, looks like one check to Bob Garrity, who put in some hours on April 9th, but other than that, the usual payments, including Max Meister, who's giving us some service on Tuesday and Thursday. And I think that's been working out really well. We thank him for that. And so the total would be $6,949.85. I'd entertain a motion to approve that warrant.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the clerk will indicate that motion was approved unanimously as well. And the warrant for the bills,
Just quick, is that gonna be our last rock salt payment? Or,
If it snows, we're dead.
well, if we're on a payment plan, or if that's just the last delivery we
We're
had to
not
get?
on a payment plan.
Okay, so that was the last delivery, and we hopefully will not see any more
Yeah.
salt payments. So next year.
okay. Any other questions about the expenses or the,
And don't be fooled by the salt in the shed, that's dailies. So that it's pouring out the front door, that whole thing's daily, we were out.
So we borrowed salt?
No, they've
not borrowing,
got a
they're
problem up there and they needed to store some, and we had an empty shed, so they filled it.
Okay. So are we completely done?
We probably got a tri-axle load. It's in another bay, I moved it. We wanted to move it, wanted to get all the old junk out anyways when we were talking about salt.
there was one additional bill to our attorney, Rob Wilmington's office at $1,500 for work on a tax sale in February that we need to pay. That's been added to the total. The total was $27,651.88. Adding $1,500 to that gives us a total of $29,151.88. Entertain a motion to approve the warrant for that amount.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. And there's none opposed, so we'll consider that motion approved unanimously as well. I'm just going to sign this. Those can be paid. What we like to do is try to address any citizen comments first before we move on to the really boring business of the town. So if there's any comments, we'd love to hear some
I
feedback.
just wanted to know if there's gonna be anything done about the sidewalk on Fulton Street. It's not awful, it's awful looking and it's become dangerous now. There's big chunks of blacktop and that's all scattered everywhere and and the lawn's all chewed up. And I think what really happened was the equipment that they plowed with was way too heavy and too big for that sidewalk. It just came down and just took everything out.
So, ma'am, could I
I have
have,
pictures.
could I have your name for the record?
Ann Ransom, R-A-N-S-O-M.
And so Holden Street running from the intersection all the way to Lake Perrin is North Bennington. So what section are we talking about? On both sides or one side?
One side, I have pictures to show you how the blacktop looks.
It's from about across the road from the church up to the ball field.
Okay.
You know,
It's just-
4 or 5 houses, 4 houses.
It's just completely tore up.
Okay.
And I don't know whether to just go out and pick up the pieces myself and put them out front, have somebody come pick them up, or, but I mean, if you ride a bike up the street, you wouldn't be able to wheel a baby carriage on that side of the street.
So
And I know when my mother lived there, she was around, in a hover around, and she could never go out, she had to go in the street, or go on the other side, and she could never use that side of the sidewalk.
So we've had discussions about whether to try to improve that sidewalk or abandon that sidewalk, actually, and certainly we'd entertain any kind of a,
Or just tear up the blacktop and get rid of it.
correct, right, so
I mean,
that,
it's got, that blacktop's gotta go.
Yeah.
okay.
It's gotta
Oh, chunks
go. It's
everywhere.
all chunks everywhere, and my lawn is all tore up, and I haven't even fixed the lawn yet.
So how do you and the neighbors feel about the idea of, on many streets in the village, we've decided to just create one decent sidewalk on one or the other side of the road?
That's the way it is now.
Well, essentially, that's right.
Yeah.
So my question is, if we, the village, were to pull up all that and reestablish lawn all the way up and down that street for everybody there, how would your neighbors feel about that?
I don't know how they would feel about it.
How would you feel about it?
I'd like a sidewalk.
Okay.
I think it's important because like Aaron, the ball field, the playground, that it needs a sidewalk.
But we've done a pretty good job of diverting traffic, and particularly if there was a yard there instead of what looks not like a sidewalk. We have a newer, the other side is on the park side, on the church
Yeah,
side.
that's nice over there.
The problem is, as you get further down, we have to cross the street to go through the
But then
lower.
you've got the park, you gotta have a sidewalk in the park.
You mean just on your side of the street?
Yes, the park is on our side of the street. The
You mean
fountain with
the Halloween fire and all that, the fire pit and
It's
all
a
that?
nice, it has a nice park there,
Yeah.
benches and the water fountain.
Part of the issue we ran into there with the sidewalk was the further you get closer to Main Street on that side, that's where you're gonna find a lot of people that are not willing or not wanting to redo the sidewalk. Because in order to get a proper sidewalk, we need 5 feet, plus you need clearance from the road.
Yeah,
So they would lose, especially when you get to the last house on the right, before you head into
The park.
the park there. We would be taking all of those gardens out, especially to put the sidewalk in. We're talking about going in, 10 feet to get 5 feet of sidewalk. And it would have to tear up those, especially those last 2 houses in order to
I
put a
know
sidewalk
years
in.
back, everybody who lived there put in, paid for their own part of their sidewalk. The blacktop,
Oh, is that right?
yes.
So
So,
that was quite a while ago, I believe.
that's a while ago. But I remember when it
Yeah.
was just dirt.
Yeah,
It was a dirt sidewalk.
sure.
Maybe that would be best, a dirt sidewalk.
Again, you still run into the same issues with upkeep though. So what we've got is, so if you're gonna be ADA, you have to have a 5-foot sidewalk. And that's what our plows are meant to plow, are 5-foot sidewalks.
Yeah. See, the plow
So we would have to put in a
is-
plow.
If the plow hadn't plowed I think the sidewalk would have been okay. It would have torn.
Well, it wouldn't have been, that sidewalk's been deteriorating since I've been here in 10 years. The plow's not too big, the sidewalk is just too old.
You
and-
know, and then everybody just plowed their own part of the sidewalk, or else
Well, that'd be wonderful. I'd
The
love
other
to start a campaign for that, but that's not
If
gonna
the
happen.
sidewalk
it'd
sunk,
be best.
the ground grew up on either side of the sidewalk, you know, as the lawn just kind of generates. So then when you go through with the thing, you're down in a tunnel essentially.
Because it just tore up everybody's
Yeah.
lawn.
Would you be happy with the idea that we attempt to eliminate all the asphalt, establish a nice lawn for now, then discuss whether or not individual houses would want to extend their own sidewalk from their homes to the road edge, just so that they could have, you know, and then explore the other options, because then you can cross the street and have a sidewalk. And then in the future,
They park on that side, they can walk in. They park their cars there.
right,
Yeah, they park their cars there for games, church.
Well, to get in.
well, I mean, so that if you had a sidewalk that extended out to the road, the problem is there's no curb on that road. A walkway essentially, from your house to the street.
Would there be parking too on that side?
Could you, I mean, you can't.
There's parking now.
There's parking
I
now.
know there is.
You can't,
Well, we wouldn't be changing the dimensions of the road, so we wouldn't eliminate parking.
Okay.
So I think it would be the
you can't tear
same.
up the blacktop that's there and just put down some new. Just,
It's not quite that easy. Because what it is, you dig it down, you dig it out, you have to put a base in, otherwise if you don't put the proper base in, you've got what you've got right now in 2 years.
but put in new blacktop.
No,
It would be something that we would have to, that's something you budget for.
Yeah.
Norm, if you had to guesstimate, what would it cost to put in a sidewalk that you're talking about?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at the numbers.
Because I know
Yeah.
someone last year came down from the fireworks, and it was so uneven that they fell down. And I went to help them up,
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that we need to remove what's there.
and it was just,
But the question is, you know, whether you're saying you would like, I mean, actually, I think it's pretty much undisputed that we need to remove the broken blacktop that's there,
yeah.
and we need to put something there that's just gonna, and the residents can basically decide, do you just put a little gravel, or do you want it to be re-sodded for now? And then the question for the board is, do we want to reestablish a sidewalk there or not? And your position is, yes, you'd like to have a sidewalk there.
I'd like to have a sidewalk.
And we'll talk to the other residents and we'll look at what grant funding might be available, but that's not an issue that we can resolve. Putting in a new sidewalk is not something we can decide tonight,
No,
but tonight we can decide to say that at the next opportunity, we'll remove the, broken.
Norm, I think we were on that page, weren't we, before, that needs to come out. We can't just throw dirt.
Oh, we've been on that page for
Yeah.
years, you know, that's just, you know, again, I can't, I'm thinking to talking with the guys that actually put the sidewalk in and then reviewed it, I think that sidewalk's put in the 50s.
Right.
So that sidewalk's
It's not like.
been there a long time,
it's
you
early
know?
50s and everybody paid for their own section.
Right, they think they pay half, because we found a thing, so if the sidewalk in front of your house costs $500 for your property line, the village paid $250 if you pay $250, and that's how they did it. And they did it on West Street, was like that, and everywhere else. You know, do I think that, you know, it would be wouldn't be a great expense for the village if we did go right down to the park, we tear it all out, we box it out, so that means we dig it 5 feet wide, we lay in gravel, and then maybe, you know, I can get some prices on concrete, and I can get some prices on blacktop, and then we can decide what we wanna do, but it may stay a gravel sidewalk for a year,
Or two, realistically.
you know, but,
We'll bring that level up so that it's flush with the ground, so that when the plow goes across.
but if we do that,
Well, the plow won't be able to,
well, if we do that, then we would abandon it in the wintertime. We would close, we wouldn't be plowing.
yes, no.
Cause
And
you
if
just,
somebody, if a resident wanted,
We would we have a big snow blower.
You could do that, you're saying you could do that without pushing gravel all over the place and digging everything up?
Probably.
And there's a lot of days that, whether you believe it or not, there's a lot of days you probably notice we don't plow when it gets soft and sometimes, I mean, there was one time this, whenever it was soft, and my guy drove down and I was like,
Because, I mean, you can't use it the way it is anyway,
Yeah.
so no use, it'd be fine not to plow it in the winter.
I'd like to propose that the board consider directing Norm and his crew to, at earliest convenience, not just dig out all that old asphalt. I think gravel could be removed if later it was consensus in the neighborhood that really they just would be more happy with grass. But the notion, I mean, the village, I don't think the village owes you anything in the terms of, because you paid for part of it 55, 68 years ago, you know, things deteriorate.
Yeah,
The question really is, does the neighborhood want a sidewalk there? Are they happy with gravel? Would they rather lawn? And that's all gotta get decided, but in the meantime, you're right, this is untenable, that's awful. And I would make a motion that we it's mostly labor at this, you know.
yeah, and it's bad. I mean, I've sat here and said,
Yeah, I know.
get rid of, you know, we can't, and believe me, you're not,
There's a section that's
you're not the
bad.
worst, you're not
I
the
mean,
worst one.
I mean, I picked up that blacktop and put it in a pile and had somebody come pick it all up, but I, you know, I haven't
No,
done
that-
anything yet with it.
I think
Right.
in a matter of the next few weeks, these guys could,
Yes.
Right, so the motion on the table is that the board direct the highway department to, at the next convenience, remove the existing blacktop and essentially.
box it out,
essentially
widen it, it would probably be widened so that later you could put,
Oh, we'll
box
make
it
it
out
so we
to a
can.
standard specification.
Does it have to be as wide as the other side?
Yes.
It would have to be.
Because the problem is, so if we do that, it would never be able to be plowed if we don't. Because our plows are meant to plow
Yeah.
5-foot sidewalks, so it would tear
So
up
why-
everything again.
That's why I don't know why they plowed it to begin with. It wasn't wide enough to plow. And
Well, because we,
I think it would have saved
Because
it.
for as many people that, and believe me, that's an understandable argument.
You know?
There are also people that come in and say, why aren't you plowing our sidewalk? Because we're not able to walk on it when you don't. So it's, you're torn between those that don't want it plowed and those that do, and I think they
know the
try to make a
neighbor on the other
judgment.
side of me was very upset about the
Sure.
lawn being torn up.
well, we can fix that, we can dress it out with gravel, we can bring in some topsoil on the sides, get it seeded.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But the weeds will, you know, the weeds will encroach in that kind of situation, but if they don't make it wide enough now with a base, if you ever wanted asphalt, like we did on Prospect Street, you know, Prospect Street only has one-sided sidewalk with all the college students coming down.
Yeah.
But we finally, we blacktopped that, and that's held up.
right, but it's only 5 years old.
No, I know.
8 years old
No.
versus 60.
The other option is for us to leave it, tear it out, give you back your lawn, and then you as a neighborhood deciding whether you all want to put in your own sidewalk.
Yeah.
That could then be put in narrower, but we wouldn't plow
Yeah.
And you can
right.
plow it
Yeah,
yourself.
Yeah, don't plow it,
it. So that's another,
because
right?
it's the lawn that gets tore
Well,
up.
that's up to you, but I don't.
It wouldn't be
I don't think
ADA,
that's-
so it's
I
not
don't think
something we
that's the way
could
to go.
do. We couldn't,
I think the other neighbors, I'm not positive, but I think they wanna keep a sidewalk there. Just,
Is there an option to talk to the homeowners that, I mean, there's only 5 homes there, right?
I almost thinking last month's meeting, we asked them all to come
from the park.
Because we were gonna talk about it.
Bye.
in this meeting. Didn't we ask the
Yeah.
homeowners on that street? I
Yeah.
thought we talked about it on the TV, they'd come here and talk about it. I mean, I know the one guy, the first one from the park, just as soon as see that sidewalk disappear.
Well,
They're gonna like people walking by his house, but.
the question that I would have for the homeowners there is, would you, what we're gonna do is remove the blacktop, no question, but would you prefer it to be a gravel, gravel 5-foot wide sidewalk set up for the potential for a sidewalk possibly, or would you rather have it, topsoil and seed?
I think.
With still the potential in the future of going to a
I
sidewalk.
mean, that's something
Yes.
that if you wanna do that, probably Lori should draft a letter and mail that, have all the homeowners on that street.
I mean,
Mhm.
the sidewalk's important for the park.
Well, it could be a sidewalk either way. We could,
Yeah.
if it's grass, we could always do a sidewalk over grass, that's easy. Or if it's gravel, we could do a sidewalk over that
Yeah.
too. It's just, I think, what the consensus among the homeowners is to, what the temporary fix would be.
And that's what we're talking about right now is a temporary fix, because obviously this would have to be budgeted. And again, when we didn't, this is, I mean, get just off the top of your head, a rough number on what that would
I
cost.
just don't wanna set us.
10 grand.
So $10,000 roughly for us to put a sidewalk there. So that's something we would have to talk about, budget for, find out what we have in our sidewalk. As you know, we've got sidewalks going on now, so that,
Is there money?
You don't just like-
We have a sidewalk
for
fund.
sidewalks
yep, we have a
every
sidewalk
year?
fund, yep. Well, it's not that it's allotted to be spent every year, we put money into it every year, and we usually try to prioritize those sidewalks. And obviously, right now, that is a priority, that's one of the priorities, but there are other
It took
priorities.
us, what, 7 years, we've been working on this project that's happening right now up here. That's federal money.
And that was mainly because we went through the grant process, I mean, that would probably be
This
something
would
we
be
wouldn't
much
have.
simpler, for sure,
Yeah,
but it would cost us, you know, this project, we're getting out of, we're getting, you know, a good sidewalk on the main highway, with about 20 cents on the dollar. This over here, if we did it strictly out of our budget, you know, we're looking at, what do you think,
You could just say,
That's
probably
actually-
between 10-ish.
10 and 15?
I think 10.
And we could stop it at the last house where things narrow down. Because that other sidewalk crosses
Now, if you're gonna go, you're gonna go all the
Well, I
way.
don't,
You gotta go all the way to the fountain. It just, I know you like the last guy,
it just.
but if it's gonna come out, it's gonna come
It
out.
goes to the last house, it doesn't go all the way up to the corner.
right, because the ground falls away there too. So-
And it turns into a park. So you would want to build it
All
in a way that you go right to where the path that goes in the park.
Yes.
You're gonna have a fight on your hands then. You don't have a consensus in your neighborhood for sure
Well,
about,
we have a right of way.
well, okay.
You know, if you're gonna build it, build it. If you're not, if you're gonna abandon it, then abandon it. You know,
It's bad practice to end a
it's
sidewalk.
to go up and then come back in and then go
Especially when
around.
there's a corner.
We end them, that's where they want ends from the other side of that, so.
But if you know where, if you think about where that house we're talking about is, what happens right after that house? Is a corner. So if we're gonna end a sidewalk, or we're gonna end a sidewalk, you're gonna put in a crosswalk. And now you're encouraging crossing the street on a
It's
corner.
not a blind corner really, but this is what the neighborhood's gonna have to figure out. I think what we can do tonight is decide that we're gonna get that crap out of there, we're gonna
Yeah,
build it.
that's actually the main thing I wanted.
Yeah, and then we're gonna build it.
My tonight was just getting those broken pieces out of there. Cause I didn't know whether to pile them up or then call for somebody in the town to pick them up. Or-
And then we'll build the grade up so that the water doesn't pool there and then
Yeah.
freeze. That's the other problem. Is that if you actually had a slightly elevated gravel bed there,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
you know, it would stay dry, it'd be packed
Yeah.
down firm, and then we can revisit it when the neighbors all figure out what they want in terms of a final solution.
Sounds good.
Is
Yeah,
that the motion?
That's my motion.
All right.
Second.
The motion is to remove the existing pavement, replace with gravel to a standard specification, whatever you determine is best, given what you're presented with there, I don't know, 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever. And then, we would revisit the potential for a sidewalk at a later date.
And what we can decide and discuss is whether or not we want to abandon the official plowing of that such that it doesn't create.
yeah, because it tears up the lawn.
So that's not part of the motion. Is
That's
there a
not-
second?
That's not
to that
part of the motion.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, second, and
Yeah.
is there further discussion on that motion? Okay, so all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. There's no opposed, that carries unanimously, so we will have that removed as soon as we can, and then, have a gravel base essentially, and then we'll take it from there and see how we can budget for something like that in the coming years. Okay? And if if there's.
Thanks for coming, and if bring your neighbors, if there's other questions you have about it, you want to further
Yeah,
discuss
talk to
it.
the neighbors and,
Yep,
yeah.
good.
see what they think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still under citizen comment, if there's any.
Thank you.
That's not good.
She fell down her, she fell down her already.
So, do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
I won't take too long. I'm just coming up after an email I sent you.
And so this is Bill Scully.
Yeah. Bill Scully is here to talk about the blocking of traffic, specifically what happened this week with the train. And do you want me to go into it? I think I sent you something in writing. Do you have that?
So the board has received a notification from Mr. Scully about this issue that occurred at the train crossing on Friday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I think it should be, I think it would be good to have it explained in this forum, just because I think your words are essentially what I've taken into consideration, and I have obtained the information for the representative of V-Trans, who has the appropriate connection with the railroad or whatever, to draft him a letter making sure that he understands the village's concerns about this, which I think is a really important safety concern. But I'll let you sort of establish the facts first, and then we can discuss what the next steps will be.
I'll just read this quickly. I'll try not to take too long, but what day was this? May 4th. At approximately 5:15, we were driving down Grandview.
You said 13:15, right?
3:15.
Right.
3:15. We were driving down Grandview Street, stopped at the base of the hill. We noticed the train was there and the cars were already backed up to the intersection. We pulled forward, but then we couldn't go anywhere. We were blocking the intersection, so we made a right down Hawks Avenue. So we wouldn't block the intersection. And over the subsequent 45 minutes, while the train was on the tracks blocking, I think, all three roads at one time, we were stuck. I ended up calling the police just because it was such an obvious traffic hazard. There was children getting out of school, trying to avoid cars backing down the road and trucks going past. It was absolute chaos after a while because people were frustrated. I can go through the bullets, but a lot of it was children just having no way to get past, or couldn't even pass the train until about 20 minutes. The train had backed up enough that they could go around the backside of North Bennington Variety, which other people were doing on foot. I don't know how many cars turned around on yards, but somewhere between 20 and 30 cars were backing down the highways to try to get out. People were driving the wrong way on the road. That was the most frequent thing. Again, driving on private property, and all kinds of other hazards. At one point in time, I think the train sat blocking all three roads for a straight 30 minutes with no movement at all. And nobody was present that we could see, but again, we were on Hawks Ave, so who knows. I called the police. They obviously can't do anything about a train, but I thought, and when I called, they said, you're not the first call. There's nothing we can do about the train, and I kind of indicated that I was calling because they might want to send some traffic control out. They just didn't feel safe. And I believe that they did. I don't know that for sure. But it occurred to me that blocking that traffic, including emergency vehicles, rescue vehicles, like anything like that, like had there been an accident, we were wondering, well, where's that ambulance going to come from? Hoosick Falls? Because I don't know how they're going to get here. So I guess my point was that it occurred to me that no vehicle, train or not, should be able to completely block access between Shaftesbury and North Bennington for an extended period of time without moving at all. And if in fact there was a breakdown, then somebody should be there. The train should have the capacity to redirect traffic to say there's a detour here. Call the police, call the fire department, call somebody if there's an actual situation that they can't control like that. So I was really asking if the village could request that the state address the matter, and I go into some of the details, but at a minimum, what happened? What caused this and how can we not have it again? I don't think I'm not proposing to block rails, but I think if they shouldn't be at a standstill for longer than 5 minutes and blocking all the traffic for 15 minutes in total you know, is perhaps reasonable, some would say probably excessive, but I understand the need to do that. But if they're gonna not be able to comply with that, there should be posted detours. I mean, when we're sitting there, we should have the ability to make a decision of, hey, if we go this direction, we're gonna sit in this spot for the better part of an hour, as opposed to having turned around when we had the opportunity and taken an alternate route. So, I was hoping that you could talk to somebody in the highway department. I don't know if this is something that's allowable or not. I'm just not sure. Maybe it's already not allowed and this shouldn't have happened. But regardless, while you're working on ordinances, I thought maybe actually dealing with vehicles blocking traffic might be an interesting thing to deal with, because I had that happen actually in Bennington where when they were working on the pipeline, they decided they were gonna back up and jockey 4 tractor trailers in while I waited. I said, I'll give you one, but because I asked him how long, he said 8 or 10 minutes. And I said, no, I'll give you one and then I'm gonna start driving. You're not gonna sit here and do every single one of these trucks that's flying up right now while everybody's waiting for you. And so that in fact happened, but it just seems that it's a reasonable expectation that a highway should be not blocked for an excessive period of time.
So my experience over the last 20 years with that has been a number of phone calls to the railroad. At one time while I was sitting there, I was able to get on the phone with the president of Vermont Railways, and they told me that there are no regulations regulating what they can and can't do with respect to that, and that he assured me that the minimum amount of necessary time is always exercised and, you know, basically go to hell. And that was my same argument. In fact, I sat there for an hour one time, going between the 3 possible places, and there were emergency vehicles, you know, needing to get wherever they were going. And there seems to be no accountability.
That's why I was thinking that if the
Ordinance is
state
an
doesn't,
interesting way to approach it, in the
the
same
ordinance would
way.
do that, that would make it illegal to do that then.
Except that they own the land and they're exempt from, I mean, they claim they're exempt from all of these local regulations because they own the rail.
I think you could you can pass ordinances, and try to restrict or regulate somebody else's use of the village property, but, who do we have to enforce the ordinance, and, are they just gonna be able to defeat our attempt at enforcement because the federal regulations supersede our municipal regulations? So I think there's problems with that approach, but certainly, I mean, that's something to consider. My idea to start off is to draft a letter to try to get something in writing to, you know, and maybe I can reach somebody else at the railroad as well, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just one company that uses this rail line. It may be, but there are different situations for different sections of rail in Vermont, and who owns the easement, who owns the rail, and who's allowed to use it, who does use it. I mean, so I think V-Trans is the good initial place to start. I'm willing to draft a letter to them outlining the concerns, as well as a request for any policy that would apply.
I think you can go directly to Vermont Railway, because they're the ones that own the tracks.
I think it's V-Trans. I think Vermont State owns 100% of the actual rails and rail beds in the state. But they're all leased by private groups. That's what they do.
Vermont Railway releases the track.
Yeah, so the state has some authority here.
But this is,
Well, they do and they don't.
their authority is
They
to,
do in some.
Like, they have to fix these railroad crossings, and they hate it, because he can't mandate. Something happened back in the 50s, the railroad basically holds the state hostage, with, you know, again, Matt's sentiment. I've dealt with the railroad personally. They ripped up the road, ruined one car. The railroad just don't care. They'll give you the answer, we don't take any longer than we absolutely have to, and that's it. You know, I don't think that that's a reason, just because what I know that we should try, draft a letter and send it. I don't think I don't think you should have huge expectations of them trading it. You know, maybe somebody get yelled at and they were just at the store getting a drink and that's why it sat there forever. You know, they were getting a sandwich.
If I can
Who knows?
get a response, which the way I drafted the letter was that, you know, please let me know if you're not able to respond within 25 days, which gives us enough time to address it before the next meeting. So I expect that, you know, potentially they would say, we can't respond within the 25 days. Okay, so when can you respond? And then get a written response. If the response is, we don't have any policy or regulation, but we assure you that the minimum amount of time is used, I think that's useful to some degree, because then you can say, when traffic is blocked for an excessive period of time, this is an emergency situation. If somebody has a fire or an accident over on this side, there's no access to emergency services. And I have an email right here from your boss that says that you're to use the minimum amount of time. You need to get the engine back and let some traffic through and then continue with your moving. I think, you know, whether the first person in the line has that information, you know, maybe not, but at least somebody in the village would be able to maybe take that.
I think it's a start. You get them on record, you do the same thing. I think it's a great effort for local communities to start pushing back on this long history of, you know, bullheadedness, commerce, and, you know, to hell with you, we run this show. And in the same way that I think there was a great response with the propane storage stuff, and I think they did react to that, and what was happening up in Shelburne, you know, they've had their way with it forever, and I think it's time, and I applaud this, but I agree that it'll be a long haul.
It might be, and it might be worth checking on Sheldon because it was appealed to the Supreme Court, Vermont's Supreme Court.
That's right.
And I don't know the rule, I actually never heard the final ruling on that. So it might be interesting to find out what kind of effect anyone can have on railroad. Who knows?
Can the letter that you draft also inquire what is occurring when it is sitting still for 30 minutes?
I was thinking the same
It
thing.
does have that.
Because if it is, you know, we discussed earlier today when we had a brief meeting, if they've got engine trouble,
Right.
then okay, they've got an issue. But if they don't, and they're just stopped because they're idling for something, why aren't they parked on the far side of the first entrance over here? Maybe they're blocking Hawks but not Whitman's, or vice versa, you know, those entrances, so that they're parked in such a way, and I believe it was a 50-car train.
Well, I think it was more than that. When they started moving, it was another, at least 10 minutes before the tracks cleared.
Right.
I mean, it was one of the longest ones I've seen in this area, but.
So why were they idling, and why couldn't they idle somewhere they weren't blocking 3 roads?
And why did they idle, like, with the engine, like, being on the track? Like, if they had moved 10 feet more, or close to that.
It's infuriating, isn't it? They go this way and they only go halfway.
They would just
back
enough
the
that
other
we
way.
could pass and stop, and I'm sure there was a reason for that at the other end, but it was one of those, you know.
I don't think so. I think it's just so they can get far enough to switch track. And they don't go at all further than that, even if it's parked right in the middle of the
Even
road.
if
So
they
they could go.
required to somehow change where the switch is,
Yeah.
it might make a difference as to how much they're costing. Anyway,
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for raising that
Thanks, Bill.
important issue.
thank you for writing that. You wrote that?
So if the board would authorize me to just draft that letter and
So
go ahead and send
authorized.
it, I'll do that. I don't think it requires a motion, but as long as I have the
absolutely.
consensus of the board to go ahead and do that,
Thank you.
I will.
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
You want to stay?
Thank you, citizens.
Bill, you want a cream puff to go?
No, I'm good, thank you. I'm gonna do the exercise like I said. But I'll be back.
Are there any other citizen comments that we know of? There's no more citizens here, but, and so,
One of my neighbors on the corner of Park Street did bring up to me, their neighbor both having chickens that crow apparently at 2 AM. And across the street on the opposing side of his house, the proliferation of vehicles and a deck being built that I'm not sure has been approved, and a fire pit. Basically, they're a whole.
This is down the far end, partially.
I know that the zoning administrator has addressed those last
He has?
issues.
Okay.
Yes, he has.
Okay.
I had some questions from the homeowner, because I work with her,
Okay.
and she knew that, so she wanted to know procedures after having spoken with Dennis McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think that's underway.
Okay. I just.
Actually, I know that's underway. This all just occurred in the last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the rooster issue's I've been talking with the same homeowners for a while. And that's when I was trying to reassure them that we were kind of moving along with, right now, our ordinance is a noise ordinance.
Mhm.
So their recourse right now is you call the police, they come. What's been happening is police will come, knock on the door, nobody answers the door. And at that point, if the rooster is stopped,
To get.
they can't do anything about it.
They
And the way the ordinance reads, I
ordinance
think
reads 90 decibels.
it's a certain decibel for so long a period too.
No roosters doing that.
I don't know that, I don't think there is a decibel for,
That section.
I think that's part of the muffler. So that was when we had the motorcycle issue, that's a different,
Nuisance.
yeah, so I think like barking dog and those are just, it's a duration. And I don't think it has to reach a certain decibel, so they don't need a meter to do
You
that.
know, there's also the issue, the animal thing, if you go back to our bylaw, our charter, actually, it speaks of, you could fight nobody who owns less than a half acre of land for any animals. I believe is the way
Well,
it states.
that's where I was getting with that was, so what, I did a little talking so in lining up with things and ordinances, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit, they've got an ordinance on the book, depending on where you live. Like roosters around there, peacocks, I think around, they have certain birds that you have to actually have, has to be in a non-residential farming type area. So that's on the ordinances in Bennington, which is, once we align with those ordinances and get those passed,
So we
it
need
will
to push
be.
through.
Well, the only problem is, so when we pass ours, we can't go backwards and say, you can't have those now. They would be able to keep them, I believe, and John can probably speak more to this, they could not replace them once they're gone now. So if I have a rooster now, it wasn't in the ordinance, we passed an ordinance that says no roosters where you live. I think you fall under a grandfather clause there, so you can keep those roosters, you just can't replace them. Does that sound somewhat
I think
accurate,
it
John?
would, if the ordinance is about keeping roosters, you couldn't pass that retroactively. Correct, so that would have to be grandfathered in, but if the ordinance addressed like
The noise ordinance.
the noise.
Which is always the case anyway. So right now they have been, and these homeowners have been calling the police. I told them, I encourage them, you've got to keep doing that as painful as it might be and often as it might be.
Although, there's certainly another side of the coin that says that we are in a rural area and that is sort of some of the cost of living there. Because I would say that North Bennington has a substantially different number of citizens per square mile that Bennington does. And so if the
But we still,
Bennington regulation has to do with, if the areas have to do with population density.
yeah, I haven't read the ordinance, so I don't know what their ordinance actually
What's been
reads.
the response from the person the complaint is against? Did the neighbors?
My
talk to
history
each other,
with
or
this
did they-
is, it was actually an issue years ago. They addressed it with the homeowner and they actually got rid of it. And it was going fine for a couple of years and then they replaced the rooster. So it's been going on, I think, at least 6 months, maybe longer now. So it was an issue that they actually took care of themselves at one point and then it's resurfaced.
think if we're just, a lot of times, neighborhoods have to deal with this, that, you know, oftentimes the impulse is to pick up the phone and call them a bus.
I think they have,
I mean,
they
to
have-
the neighbor.
yep. My understanding is, I mean, again, and like John was saying, that's one side of the story was that they have tried to address it that way, and then they've also gone to the legal way as well. Really interesting.
Something to be aware of.
Yep.
So I have there was this comment that was left on my machine, about the repaving of Park Street. There's a small section of park that is paved that's scheduled to be repaved as part of the water line extension project. And, I've been asked for a schedule on that because if somebody wants to paint their house and doesn't want to be caught, you know, in the middle of painting right when that happens and get dust all over the paint. So, if you don't have any up-to-date information, I can attend the meeting tomorrow and make sure that we know what the schedule is.
You can, or you are.
I think I have time to do
Right.
that.
I don't have any up-to-date, you know more than that.
Put them in contact directly with Schultz and.
Right, because you know, we've got, Hillside's gonna be tore up for quite some time.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that whole corner could be quite a long project. And I don't believe, my guess would be that they're not gonna pave that until they can pave it all.
I think that's right.
Because, I mean, look at it, that was supposed to be paved last fall.
Yeah.
And we're still sitting on it. But when you go to that meeting, when you talk about paving up on West Street, if you would indulge us, that's brand new pavement. And, you know, they need to mill or cut that and make nice square lines and not the abortion that we got down at the end of River Road where they just ripped off everything. And that's what it is up there. It's all jagged and, you know what I mean? When they pave that really needs to look nice, square.
I have had that conversation with them as far as what River Road looks like and our desire not to have that happen in other areas. So I don't know. So you're saying that currently,
If you go up to West Street and you look at it and you see where it's still dirt because they haven't paved it yet.
okay,
But it's all jagged and it's rounded off, it's not, it looks they just ripped it up, and when they pave, if we don't get them to put it in writing, they will pave right to that joint that's existing right now, and they won't care. Look at every other thing that they've done.
okay.
And that was very recent, that's new blacktop up there.
Just instruct them that they need to be in contact with all the neighbors as to the schedule and plans for that. That's-
They told us they were gonna have one-lane access on the entrance of West Street entrance last week or 2 weeks ago. And last week, while I was gone, some of my barn people could not get out, including Vermont School for Girls, and they had to have their lunches brought in because both ends were blocked off and they could not get out. So they're not being very clear. Even though they said they would have one-lane access, they did not.
Was that temporary or was that for the day or?
It
Well, that
was-
must have been for the day because they got in.
It was from at least 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So there was a length of time that they would not
So
let vehicles
long
out.
enough where you say you're gonna close it for this time to this time so you can give the heads up.
But they didn't. And they had both ends closed, so there was no way out or emergency vehicles in that concern.
I think that my experience has been the best way to try to get some response or that the best mode of communication is to go through the project manager, I think is his name, but Craig Dewitt from Otter Creek Engineering.
Yeah.
So,
There's one guy that was corresponding with us, and he's been really nice.
Jeff Mangini, or?
Rick is his name? I don't know what his position
For
is.
Schultz though, so.
Yeah, he is. But he's always been like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make noise. And then, he's careful with the horses and whatever. But he gave us the knowledge that it was gonna be one-lane road, and then over the course of the past 2 weeks, it has been debatably passable, to the detriment of the vet that was trying to get in one time. She had to fight her way in because my horse had an emergency, and she just said, no, I'm coming through, and they made way for her, but they insisted that the road was not open. So they're being.
Especially if there's been more than one time.
Oh, there's been more than one
The
time.
managers need to know that information. I mean, this is not our
Your job, yeah.
project, you know, so
No,
it's like.
it's been for the past
but-
2 weeks, they've been causing hectic stuff.
So did you say you're going to that meeting tomorrow?
It sounds like it might be a priority.
And it could be, you know, it could legitimately be that they've got to close it for a period of time, but
But both ends.
it's only right if you let everybody, yeah, it shouldn't be both ends, because again, you need,
I think it was both ends last week because they were rushing to get it done before the road race, which was on Sunday.
That's what I tried to find too, and I couldn't get from the north, so I came to the south.
Yeah. They were just pushing to try and get it done so the road race could happen without people running through potholes. But it caused a lot of chaos. I think that it's resolved at this point, or mostly.
but again, if you're gonna do that, it is, I don't think you can close a road without notifying that you're closing a road.
What, I mean, did we close the road?
No,
We didn't put any road close on.
no.
Okay.
Nor did they probably, or they may have.
There
But
was-
how would
I
they
don't
just
know
block
both
traffic?
ends.
They put a big-
Road close, so I
They
don't
put a
know.
big truck in the middle of it and leave it there.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
okay. I think we're resolved on that one for now.
I'll raise that issue tomorrow.
Okay.
But I would encourage you at any time there's an issue to notify the other
Managers. Yeah.
people, either Jeff Mangini or Craig Jewett, because,
Okay, I think I have his email.
you know, I think sometimes they direct Schultz to, like you said, maintain one, but then,
At one point, they were directing us down through the Head Start driveway to get around, because they had blocked off so much of that. They were just pointing down the Head Start, and I just went with it.
apparently there was an issue of, that they hit that by accident, so I think there was an emergency at some period of time, but I'm not sure when that was in relation to what they're coming up, but they still had the other end, obviously. Okay, so without any further citizen comment, let's review the treasurer's report. Let's see, I don't have it.
Oh, I don't have a hard
I don't have a
copy of
printed
that
copy, but I
either.
did.
So what I did send though was, the report that you're looking at there, that I can see there, which shows what our expenditures have been year to date and where we are left for budget. There was nothing of huge concern that I could see at the moment, but we do have a significant budget still available for the highway, for some of the road work. So I didn't know just whether there was specific plans for any specific large project to be done in the next couple of.
Oh, we have lots of projects, we're just waiting on you to
Okay.
say we got money to do them.
Take a look at it, you've got that thing, you can see what the.
I will,
Well,
you
and
must have sent it later today.
No, I sent it this morning at like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
I don't think I got it.
Yeah,
Which one is it? And I'll forward
I'll
it.
look,
yeah.
I'll look.
Well, you and I can get together even as early as tomorrow morning, we can look at it. The reason I asked that is that I also sent you where our cash balances are, which are looking fairly healthy, but wanted to know how much more of those funds we might be expending here in the next.
Well, we're starting to get invoices from Weaver, I'm assuming, at this point, is that correct? Or-
From,
The sidewalk project?
no. No, I haven't seen any of them.
Okay. I think,
The only thing that we've
received-
seen on that is the BCRC ones.
I think I got an email from Chrissy Haskins that said that he may have missed his first
Okay,
They, you know,
Yeah, I have
they have to
seen
have their
nothing
things
like that.
submitted by a certain date,
Yeah.
and then they get approved,
Yeah.
process for payment and all that stuff. So, we may be looking at a double one
Okay.
if he puts in for the first one plus
I
the.
think he was waiting till he got this whole sidewalk done,
Could be.
and then he was gonna send a rec and
The
that.
state reimbursement from that comes fairly quickly though,
Right.
because BCRC sends that in promptly.
Yeah,
So at least that's money that will come back to us, that may
but that's all,
be temporary.
that's all
But-
anticipated, and
Okay.
that's, is,
Yeah.
I'm asking that as a question.
Oh.
What we have to spend on the sidewalk is anticipated, and you're talking about,
I'm
other money
talking about
that's
in the
available.
normal budget, the amount that is left on the highway maintenance line specifically
so,
was,
so my question though is that, are we expecting to pay as much as we can for this out of the sidewalk reserve and not out of the highway maintenance? budget?
absolutely.
Okay. So if we don't,
And
if
parks.
our share doesn't equal the reserve,
Parks.
then we're never gonna, then we won't touch the highway, but if we go over
Fine,
it
I'll
by
park
some.
on
Okay, well, that or our
Everyone else
contingency.
does.
Okay.
Worked out pretty good for you last time.
Yeah.
And then there's the other projects that I'm aware of are the culvert on Water Street and the depot roof, but this is not gonna be submitted for payment for, quite a while. Because we're just, the documents have been finalized and it's gonna go to bid in the next, few weeks. But there isn't gonna, you know, the contractor's not gonna be ready to go for a while. So, yeah, take a look at that and see what we can do, I guess.
Put a sidewalk in there.
Any other questions?
It's probably gonna shoot to the top of the list.
Any questions on the treasurer's report?
Nope.
No.
I'm good.
Okay.
Highway facility.
I don't think we just review the report, we don't need to, do we need to approve the report?
No.
And, highway department,
All right, well, here's a scope of work for the culvert
oh, great.
job, if anybody wants to just look at it from the
Yeah.
state. I met with Josh, the river guy, talking about putting those ballards in, those trash collectors. He's gonna work with Chris and you know, get that just added to that plan because of the little cobbles, and he understands, and he's actually working with Ron upstream about a few things, and Josh would actually like to see us request a, after this project is done, is request another easement to go actually have us go right into the river on a, you know, on the low water time, and strip all those cobbles right out of the river and bring it down to bedrock. So we don't end up with that problem, and he's saying that, you know, he doesn't quite know exactly how to permit it, but he thinks this is what we should do, and he could get the permits with him and his staff.
So after we go through the culvert on the. on the
You're right, so
riverside.
like all those cobbles that keep rolling down that plug that thing, go right up to Ron is, right where the hill is, and it's all bedrock right there. Just take all that stuff right out. Get it
Oh,
right.
so still on the same side, still on the hillside of the road, not.
Yeah, but our right of way only goes so far,
Yep.
and, but, so that's going.
How many properties are we looking at there?
Well, there'd be maximum of 2, but I think we already had the right of way for the one.
Yeah.
I bet the other is Ron.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that being a problem. So, other than that, we're just, you know, going around doing some maintenance. Everybody, it's been 80 degrees, but remember, it was, you know, pretty crappy up until like a week ago. So, we're you know, we're cleaning up our parks and our lawns. As you can see, this building is probably 90% spruced up. We've been down behind the firehouse today. We've got our hydro seeder guy coming tomorrow at noon to seed all the places that we've topsoiled. So that'll be done. And, you know, we've had to start mowing already, the park. Big thing, if you happen to be in the park, you know, look at the trash cans. People, there was 2 bags of garbage full, just scattered everywhere. What a bunch of pigs. Really is, just, you know, we empty that twice a week. If the thing's full, you brought your junk with you, take it home. You know, it's ridiculous. There's 3 cans in that place, you know? And one of them's gotta be, you just throw garbage everywhere. The parks guy needs to meet with me and we gotta go over the bleachers because they're getting pretty humble.
The bleachers here?
At the baseball park, yes. Whether it's a joint effort with.
That would probably be a
Metcalf
conversation
or-
with Jeff.
But we were in a,
No, probably, literally.
Oh,
but we,
Typically, the way these things work, because we don't, I mean, and the way they should work, we don't charge for anybody to use anything. The trade-off is we usually get good, and believe me, he's probably one of the best out there.
right.
Is literally,
Right.
they do more for the properties they use than anybody, and they're great. So it could be a combination of, but I've had several conversations about this park and the other park, and he's always willing to do his share, so.
Yeah, I had to go get a bunch of garbage that was full underneath the thing the other day and a couple of them boards and we really need to address it.
How's the frame itself? Fine?
Yeah, I think they would be okay. I think if they got redecked and
I'll take a look at
repainted,
them.
it probably would be tolerable.
Yeah.
You know, so we, they're working well underway up here, getting through the, local vendors, you know, the companies that have to use the entrances and so they're pouring one and that's why it's not pouring the other. We built the ramp right here. As soon as the state leaves, we're gonna get in, we're gonna knock out that little piece of sidewalk and then we're gonna have it poured. And get out of that business and then this will be done. Other than that, we've got a pretty good problem with our sweeper. It's an electronic box, if somebody wants to come up and see it. I've almost got it narrowed down, but I need a couple rainy days so I can work on it again because it's pretty expensive. And it wouldn't bother me a bit if we didn't just put tires on it. I'd throw the thing away, you know, because we buy them for $500. So I don't know where we're gonna end. I'm looking for another one. If I can find another one and I can just use my tires and I'll abandon that thing. We'll sell it and be done with it. And other than that,
fountain looks great.
yeah, we got the fountain fired up. It's all
Saw
working.
David out there, was it yesterday or today?
Hands and knees.
Right.
Let's see, we'll see him out there for the next 4 months.
We've contracted Pembroke to come in and spray for weeds in the bricks. They do that in our sidewalks, so, you know, he's licensed, insured, we're on his permit, so he can do that for us, so, I think he'll probably do that before, you know, like during the weekday, you know, a lot of kids aren't in school, but he's gonna get together with, Jeff for the baseball field, they spray around the fence and stuff like that, so we got that happening. And other than that, at the end of the year, it looks like, you know, at the end of the year, we always try to pick a quick project. And we try to coordinate that with our local water department with roads that they need to do shut-offs. And for this future vote expansion, you know, we really gotta look at that. There's no sense in doing a piece of road and then all of a sudden it comes through and gets torn up. But,
There wasn't an issue with somebody walking on the sidewalk last week and it made marks on the new concrete. Luckily for us, it was very faint and it didn't make enough of an impression to really create a lip or anything that somebody would trip over or anything like that. You can tell that it's there, but we obviously would tell people, please be aware of that situation and stay off it. But we've also asked them to try to be really cautious of that now that we know that that's an issue and make sure that all sides are roped off. And it sounds like they're going to be having somebody there until the curing is done, so they're probably gonna pour earlier in the day so that they have, you know, that they can sit there and watch it essentially, which.
And it's warmer too, it'll cure faster.
We decided, not to, you know, rip that up and pour new concrete there because it was such a slight issue, so we're just gonna have that. It will wear down and it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna create any problem for anybody. Do you know, for the culvert, the Water Street culvert project, do you know, is it on us to try and work out the timing? The dates were
Yes.
blanks, so we.
Well, I gotta wait
dates, but-
for Josh just to get with those ballards, and then we're gonna hand walk that over to Jim
Yeah.
Sullivan,
Yeah.
and get it posted on his website. Because, you know, it has to go out that, then for our, you know, so he'll post it on our website, probably put it in the paper, and then we'll certainly entertain the local contractors that always bid those jobs for us and hand it to them, but, you know, we also want that done before they come through and do the final payment.
Should we be trying to understand, get a sense of when they think they're gonna be coming to put the dates in though, or do we just wanna put dates in and hope that it's gonna be?
No, we, as soon as Josh gets with Chris and they draw those little things in, those dates are gonna be put right in, right, bang. You know, me and Jim will put those in.
Okay. So
And they'll be
usually-
fast, like the next day, you know, the bid opening,
Okay,
2 weeks from today.
yeah.
You know, release date in the paper, it'll be, because we gotta, you know, we really have the month
Okay,
of
so-
June,
yeah.
maybe July to do that project, and,
So the completion dates for the project are gonna be tied to the bid and the opening and all that?
Yes.
It's not gonna be a month or two out?
no.
It's gonna be, depend on when we get the bid done?
That's right.
Great.
It's gonna
And you
be,
said that
we'll-
something like that could be.
we'll make a bid opening on a Monday morning, that seems to be the freest for at least one of you. School's gonna be ending soon, you know, and that'll be it, we'll open it, and,
Okay.
you know, and we'll get Jim here, and so we have our legal quorum, or, you know, for the people, and bang.
Great.
And send that, because we can't wait on that one.
No.
Or else we're gonna have a patch and a brand new piece of blacktop.
And I have there's also a form, the TA 60.
Yep.
That can be approved by the chair, and so I've signed that, just so the board's aware. This is a form so that we can get reimbursed for our miles of highway here in the village that we maintain for the state. Okay, so we'll move on to the Development Review Board, which I don't think we have a report today. We have no comment from the fire department that I'm aware of. We're looking to replace the flag at the fire department, so hopefully we've got those ordered up and it'll be.
Okay. I will, just kind of aside from that, Allison Stroll from Digital Planning and Emergency Management, every year we have to update our LEOP plan. And in the past, that was done by the previous report, and then last year I did it, and I will do it again. I just told her that I need to dig up the old documents, and it looks like maybe she do it for me. We need to update everybody's contact information, and if there's any changes in.
At the regional commission?
Yeah,
I just did that
you did?
for all of you.
Did you do any other changes?
I did whatever they asked me for. It was 5 pages.
Was it the local emergency operations plan? Or you
No.
might have, no, you just, so, you
I-
updated so that they have current information at,
For all of you and
Yeah.
the zoning and that.
so that's
Okay.
helpful. But this involves like assets that we might have in the
Okay.
event of,
I didn't do that.
you know what I mean?
Emergency management.
Emergency management stuff. And so I will take care of that.
That's the local emergency operation plan.
Yeah.
Or LEOP.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for
That is all.
handling that task. So we do have, the water board has requested that we, pass a resolution to, essentially approve, approve a loan of $65,000 for, engineering costs associated with the bond through the Vermont Bond Bank. These, funds would be rolled into the bond itself. Thank you, Norm. So, and I think it, let's see. I think we would be responsible for payment of engineering that's done, if the project doesn't, in fact, go forward. If the project is not done, we'd have to pay for the engineering that has actually been completed.
The water board will.
But that's not us. We're approving the loan because we're the municipality, but I think it's certainly the understanding of the water board that they are responsible for the engineering costs that they are incurring and asking to be incurred as part of this project, because it's a water project. And I think obviously if we, if it came to it, we could direct that bill to be paid by them, but I don't think that's an issue. I think they're, so I think that can be approved. I've signed. Yeah, we do. I've signed the loan agreement, but there is a resolution there's Exhibit C, a note that needs to be signed by the majority of the board, so I'll go ahead and sign that as well. If you want to approve your signature.
This was the thing that we dealt with last week.
Yeah.
And I think John was right to not, the resolution was that we had met. and-
Wasn't there a second one that needed?
Yep. We've got a
Yeah.
second one here, so, yeah.
Go ahead.
And so the second document that needs to be signed is a resolution, and so, and this is a 2-page resolution, so, we'd ask that the resolution be entered,
Good job.
as being approved, but I'm not gonna read the resolution in its entirety, but, we have signed the document and approved that resolution by our signatures. Okay. And I think that was it. That's for the state, so, yeah. I think they just marked the ones that needed to be signed. Okay. And again, that's so this is all part of the process of moving forward, of being able to move forward with the vote. At the end of May on the bond, and there are, just to reiterate, in case anybody's listening, there is gonna be 2 information sessions before that bond vote. I don't know, it would be good if we could, have those dates, if somebody could just pull
Our
those,
future dates?
the dates for the information
No,
meetings
it's
for
for
the
their-
vote itself.
They were established by them, right?
Right, they're on we all got those water, things in the mail, they're all
Yeah,
there.
so everybody should have
Don't
received
ever tell them.
a all the residents of the village should have received a warning of the bond vote and the information sessions in the mail last week. Oh, here we go, great, thank you very much. So the bond vote is May, I didn't want to say the wrong date, but it's May 23rd, Wednesday, May 23rd, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. right here at the Village Depot. And at the same place right here at 6:30 p.m. on May 14th and May 21st are going to be the informational meetings. So going in sequential order, on the 14th, informational, May 21st, informational, and then the vote on the 23rd.
So they changed, they moved the venue from the school.
Yep, it's going to be the same place we always vote, which is here.
Yep.
So I think that way there's no confusion as to where you vote.
Okay.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, scan it.
And we'll move on to new business. I'm sorry this meeting's taking a little longer than your meetings usually do, but
Covered more ground than a lot of ground.
so there's one issue that we had. We've had a request for use of the upstairs space of the depot, and that would, in order to even entertain that request, I think we would have to, as the village, decide either how to secure our documents there in the office, the planning office that we have there currently, or, I mean, I guess in theory we can move that stuff, but I think we want to, I've wanted to address that anyways, because I think that that's, I'm assuming that some of those documents might be important, and we want to secure that in a way that is a little bit more safe than just piled up and.
We've long talked
shelves,
about collaborations with some, I think, ex-students at the college, artists who want to make use of the space. And we've just made it clear that we have to do that. And then determine that we've talked a long time about cementing what our policy is. You know, I think having life in that space is good for it. But, you know, gets into the whole thing, are we heating it for them, is this just in the summer, is it, and I haven't had a chance really to sit down with Matt. He's kind of the liaison between a couple of these people who are interested in space. I think we should look at that and figure out, get an estimate what it would involve, putting in a real door between those. And we talked about that before.
And even expanding on that, we should really, I think, expand it to all village properties. Including like if we have, which we have in the past, have birthday parties at the Lions Park. I know there's been, and this is something I was gonna put in, as well as a concerned citizen about the fire pit. And the fact that, and I talked to Norm about it not too long ago, and there's been pallets stacked in that. One, aesthetically, it's not very attractive, and two, it's only gonna take one person with a match to throw it in there, and it probably won't amount to much damage or potential damage, but it's gonna someone's gonna call the fire department, it's gonna get them out of bed and up here. I think there is a plan that the school group may try to do something there in May. So I will recontact I just found that out a couple days ago. I'll recontact the citizen that called about it and mention that. And I think future, there should be nothing in there unless there is a planned event. The
I
event
agree.
has to be recognized, has to be warned. But in speaking of policy, we should be developing policies for anybody that wants to do anything in the village. We should have something that we can, and we've talked about this several times, and it's just like kind of.
Are there any fire code restrictions for using this space? Like how many people can be in that
Oh, yeah.
space?
Sure, and there's
Are
also,
they're established?
I think so, but really it's not, it cannot be a commercial, it really is the use for someone to do, like, this is the part I was getting my head wrapped around, because it's not ADA compliant.
That's what I was thinking.
We had to move everything downstairs when there was an art show and those kinds of things. But it doesn't mean that the space can't be used for, one fellow's a musician who is looking for, I think, a place to do some collaborating. This is what I gotta get, because it's not a free space for someone to just have a studio. You know, we would get into the renting business if we wanted to do that. So we go through this every year. Someone else comes up with an idea, they go to Matt comes to us, we kind of go, you know, yeah, neat idea, but, you know, how do you, and we were gonna, with the VAE, establish a pretty clear process, and how we do that, and we just haven't done it. And I take some blame for that, but I think it's easy for an event to occur, whether it's part of the sculpture show, they want to use the space, that makes sense, it's discreet. I think it's a great way for people to be able to get into the building and see it. They keep it.
Those are the easy ones.
Those are the easy ones.
These are the ones that we gets a
This
little
is
sticky
kind of-
on. If we had something in place, it would be easy to just say, yes, it fits that, no, it doesn't.
Mission creep starts happening. So I will follow up on that with him and the others.
And if we're, this would be renting or would not?
I don't know.
We don't know. If we are
I think
renting.
if it's something that's a collaboration that, you know, that maybe ties in with, you know,
Our philosophy in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if it's a non-profit group that's not looking to make a profit on using the space, we're typically
Then at least
fairly
we'll
open
consider
to it, as long as it's a recognized
Yeah.
organization. And
Like a 501c3?
doesn't even have to.
not even that, even if it's a church group, if it's a school group, if it's a group that we know what they're planned to use for, and they're not looking to make money on it, we're happy to let them use the space. It's when
But
we
like
don't
an
know all the
independent
details.
artist that wants to do like a gallery show and sell their work, that's.
Exactly, that would be,
Well,
to
this
me,
is
that would be
where,
very
this is where we would certainly want to discuss possibly, if we're gonna be a gallery, then galleries get paid
Right.
commissions, and that's a possibility too. We've discussed the whole thing.
But if we are renting, in a sense, then we're denying that access to other
exactly.
people because we're.
Which is why we didn't get into long-term rentals, because it kind of,
So we have to just think about those things, and like you said, I think that's the clear way to go, is to just establish a policy, and so we'll work on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business that people have to bring up now? Parks, anything? Getting ready for the season?
there's plenty of parks, but we don't have the time. Oh, it's up in the air.
Do we have a contract for mowing this summer? For lawn?
Yes, that was a 2-year contract, wasn't
Oh,
it?
great. Excellent. So the same guy.
Or was it the
I
prior,
thought-
or was it the prior, or was it a 2-year contract? I don't know. Norm handled that last time. I did not have anything to do with it.
And ordinances on old, so number 10 is old business, and then we have ordinances.
Okay, well, Mark and I met with Bill to get some more specifics on what process we need to go through. Basically, what we're going to do this upcoming month before our next meeting is assess the 30-some odd ordinances from Bennington that are available to us and process 2 of the shorter ones
They're the ones we already talked about. We already.
that I guess we discussed before I was a person. And just work through the process of how to get them from point A to being an ordinance for North Bennington. And then we're gonna start plugging away at the rest of them over the course of the next several months, because it seems like some of them will be a longer task than others.
And at which point we may give you guys some homework depending on the size of some of the ordinances, we might have to share the burden.
Yeah,
And so we're in the process of review at this point,
Yes.
not, and I don't think we have a measure at this stage as to whether people are in favor or not in favor of any specific.
We did a kind of a cursory look 2 years ago. And I think there were a couple that stood out that said we need to really further look into them to make sure that they are something that's important to our village and that it fits the village.
Yeah.
But we're probably gonna start kind of going through that again. And so Tara and I will try to go through them. We'll come in with some recommendations, any ones that we have questions on. It would be a process of we'd come in, we'd present kind of what they look like. We're gonna try to tackle the one-pagers. So the ones that look like we can get through them, get a good handle of what they are, certainly bring them before the board. Then they would.
decide whether it's something that's applicable
Yep.
to the town or could ultimately be something, and then work on the wording changes that we need and send them off to our lawyer.
Okay.
I've always said, I think some of this, I think there's some good in a lot of this, but I think there's some things we need to be cautious about.
Mhm.
And I think, like, one of the things with chickens and stuff like
Right.
that, I mean, I might, I may oppose some of the easy solutions to.
We have 5 people on the board,
Exactly.
so we're gonna vote.
That's fine.
No, but that's exactly the way the process should work, I mean,
I
we'll
think,
look at them, we'll bring it through, and if we're not in consensus, then that's certain, absolutely.
that's all good.
It sounds like if one of the easy ones is screening of solar facilities, I question whether that didn't seem so easy in Bennington.
No, it did.
I don't know if we have the resources to,
To fight that,
yeah.
well, I think the issue was that they didn't have it.
I don't think we have proposed facilities to sue us, but we certainly,
No, but I think that it was, which happened first, the facility proposal and then the trying to catch up with screening.
right.
And that's why having a policy that relates to screening prior to the need for it makes a big difference.
And as Bill reminded us today, for ordinances, and again, you probably know this better than I do, with the ordinance, we are the voting panel. So we voted, it's not a public vote, it's our board
Yeah.
puts it into ordinance.
Yeah.
The reason for the 60-day is it can be challenged in that time. And again, if we don't have the resources to fight the challenge, the ordinance might go away. But we decide if we think it is, and then there's a 60-day waiting period, or it's in effect, but then there's a 60-day period where it can be challenged.
Okay.
Incidentally, I found all this information related to the proposal with the finite use that they want to use, and I sent it to you also.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're gonna take that under advisement.
So yeah, Mark and I are
So,
gonna
yeah,
work
we're gonna tackle those two.
going forward this month.
Yeah.
And see.
We'll hopefully come with a recommendation and possibly even vote on whether we approve those two at the next meeting.
All right, great.
And then we'll talk from there.
Thank you.
And I think we do need a brief executive session on the issue of contracts.
Just make a motion to go into executive session for contracts.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the meeting will be adjourned.